project is pretty much for like aspiring teachers or current teachers who are interested in Japanese culture. Is that who this is targeted for?
Okay, yeah, thank you so much for the questions. Okay, so we wanted to target the teachers and students in in Sabah, in Keningau. So that's why we are based. We thought that well, it can be the whole Malaysia, but for the time being, and for the earlier part of the project, it's Keningau or Sabah, which is our state. Or Keningau is the district where we are based. So we want to target teachers and students because our argument is that people people love Japanese culture. Japanese culture is very popular, pop culture, and people are very well aware of it. So we wanted to take advantage of that by really trying to get people to be able to integrate this into our teaching and learning process. And it's one of
Okay,
the
okay. I see what you're saying. So like the objective of this project is for like let's say the teachers to learn a little bit about Japanese culture and
yeah
possibly integrate that into their lesson plan
yeah
because Japanese culture is so is like a big interest point for a lot of students. So in order for the students to be more engaged in the class, um if the teachers had this like knowledge of Japanese culture, they can put that into the lesson plan and the lesson would become
exactly.
more engaging.
That's brilliant. Yes, myself. And in addition, now, well, I'm an English language teacher. So
Uh-huh.
when it comes to English language teacher, we use this framework. We call it CRF.
Mm-hmm.
Many countries are using it. It's a European framework. So in that kind of framework, and we just adopted it like a few years ago. Um, the English language teachers are encouraged to bring foreign cultures into English language classrooms. They can be just any foreign culture. It can be Spanish, can be African, it can be Middle East. So there is an argument that is pretty consistent with our education policy, in Malaysia. So that's the name of. So we choose omiyage. It's the takeaway. There's a Japanese tradition, Japanese plants. We learn about them, and we try to get some educational takeaway. The
Right.
omiyage from that. So
Right.
yeah, all this Japanese culture fair, and I know that it's a bit random. So we will try to like classify and categorize it. Some of them will be like a part of an event, Japanese culture fair, and some of them we might use them in classroom only or in some workshops. They don't have to be necessarily a part of the cultural fair. Like Penchakucha, for example, we can use that in our classroom teaching.
Mm.
So yeah, so we are trying to make them consistent, trying to find a way just to make sure that they are aligned with our teaching and learning theory. Like Manga is visual and textual learning.
Mm-hmm.
As a language teacher, we can answer for that one. Haiku is good for literature and language, especially when it's a short one. So it doesn't really, haiku is it's a poem that is a bit short. It's the 3 lines, so it won't overwhelm our students. And then there's Sudoku, which it wasn't invented in Japan, but it was popularized by a
Mm.
Japanese couple. And Pachankucha is a good presentation skills, and of course those traditional games they are good for coordination and motor skills. So art,
Right.
business games, and possibly entertainment if we include dance dance revolutions and Loki. So this is manga. It's
Mm-hmm.
developed by it's done by our students. One of our
Oh
students
wow.
and he loved manga so much, and we just discovered his talent. And he's not the only way. Many Malaysian students, when we ask them to draw, especially the older learners, like the students they were teaching, their drawings they tend to uh, appear to be manga-like or just in manga form. They are heavily influenced by uh, manga and anime. So it has no audio. I'm sorry. because with Google Meet we can't have, there will be no audio, but you can see, the pictures are moving. And what he did here was that he did his own manga comic strip based on a traditional style. So I thought it's a good way of, preserving our cultural heritage, but by using, like a Japanese way of doing it, which is manga,
Mm.
which what draws most people, because we know that young adults and teenagers in Malaysia, they just love manga, or, like what I said, when you ask them to draw, their drawings tend to be manga like. And haiku. So some of our students did haiku, so you can watch it from the video. Um, so the thing about haiku, it can be a bit difficult to get the students to write poems,
Mhm.
especially our students. Most of them, they have limited English proficiency. But with haiku, since it's very short and the focus is more on nature, so it's something that the students can easily produce. It helps to build their language skills. It's a good, it's like without overwhelming them. Okay,
Mhm.
because it's something that they feel like everyone can do. So what we like to do is that we get them to write the haiku, we get them to recite them, and then we put the background. So the background, they are original drawings that are being done uh, according to the meaning, to the intended meaning of their haiku. So this was pretty much like a kamishibai, but it's a digital form. And I know that it didn't look like an actual kamishibai, which is kind of like a storytelling and puppet playing, because we wanted to do it in a digital way, or in a video way, since when the pandemic happened, most of the things that we did, they became digital, storytelling and all these sort of things. So yeah, you can see the picture.
So this is
So
what you have already done in your classroom.
yeah, in our classroom and our school, so we are like trying to like, it's a way of us pilot testing this project, like
Right.
see if it works or not. Obviously, I think it can definitely draw more interest from students. So you can see the drawings, they do show a little bit similarity to manga or anime.
Mm.
Generally, they are heavily influenced by that. And they were doing this based on our local folklore. And we do have special needs learners, so these were being narrated by special needs learners. Yeah. So,
That's
so
cool.
magic. So we wanted to do, this is origamis, and this puppet show, Mari Sawa, is being done by our special, by our early childhood education students. So our idea was to get them to do, this is a conventional puppet show. So our idea is for them to, do a puppet show by using origami, because I think with origami you can create so many shapes. So you can, like, even when we were little kids at school, we always created all these, vlogs, camera, boats by, basically it's an origami technique. So I thought there's a potential of using origami as puppets and props for puppet shows. So as you can see here, our students, they have been doing a puppet show, but they are not origami. So the whole idea in the future is to maybe use the origami for, for the puppets. Uh, so I'm sure you're familiar with this because you are an early childhood, you teach kindergarten children. So these traditional games, I'm not so sure whether you have played them, Mari Sawa, because we were looking at the videos. We don't have them here in Malaysia, but we already ordered them online, and they're going to come soon. So we really like really excited to, get these tools, these items, so we can play with them. It looks very difficult in the videos,
It is. It is very
but
difficult.
because we thought, let's bring in the traditional games, and these two traditional games, they are very unique in Japan. I think we don't really see this in other countries. So yeah, hopefully it will work. We'll just once we get them, we'll try to uh, try it out and maybe get our students to try it out too. Let's see how difficult it is. I think Pechakucha, I mentioned it before, it's a form of education. So this one we can definitely teach our students to do this. Whenever they present their projects, whether they are at school or when they are presenting their projects at conferences or any form of competitions outside, you can always use Pechakucha. What I like about Pechakucha is that it's not it's a brief presentation, 66 minutes. It's limited to 20 slides. 20 slides might seem many, but when you look at the slides, each of the slides, uh, they, well, these are the slides that I just took from the internet. So there are some improper words there, but they focus more on visuals. And sometimes, or most of the time, most of the slides, there's no words at all. They are just pictures. That's what that makes it very interesting. So that's the whole rough idea so far. The Omiyage project. So we have been exchanging emails with the Japanese foundation, which is based on, and they're quite okay with it. They say, yeah, they think it's possible. So we are just waiting for them to, because they are revising their grant application. So once it's updated, so we can definitely submit our application, and it's likely that it will be accepted. So it would be really good if you somehow join us here, because once we get the grant, I think we can maybe argue, we can include their what do you call it, expenses to get somebody from Japan to come here, because when we first discovered the grant, it does say that we need a Japanese scholar or Japanese artist to be a part of the project. But I think due to the pandemic, they said that there are some changes in the rules, and now we don't really need to have that. But I thought it would be a great idea, for 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 an actual, for somebody from Japan, a Japanese from Japan, because I know there are lots of people. There are lots of people who are not Japanese, but they work in Japan. Japanese from Japan, to come here in Malaysia, or at least to be a part of this project if you can't come. Um, and also it's an international collaboration, and in for vocational schools in Malaysia, we are encouraged to have this like internationalization program, and what we are doing now is a part of it. So
Right.
we get any input or feedback from you, Mari Sawa. Yeah, Miss Mari Sawa.
Right. Okay. That's really cool. I just had a couple of more questions. Um, so the Japanese Foundation is gonna hopefully give you a grant that will enable you to um like buy resources, more resources, and that kind of thing, right? Okay. And then you said the target was for students and teachers, but mainly for the teachers so that they can really get Japanese culture into their teaching curriculum.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. And then the main like students will be people from around like 16 to 19 years old, and then there's going to be some that are like early childhood.
Yeah. We were thinking that some of them can be for the older learners. We call them secondary schools here, and maybe we can get children to be involved too in the
Okay.
kindergarten. Since we basically we are from all of us are from the same school. So at our school we have early childhood education teachers. I'm sorry, early childhood education students, and they're specialized in handling children. So we can definitely get children to take part, like
Right.
kindergarten.
And is this project so you mentioned the Japanese fair. Is that like a one day thing, or is it like an ongoing thing? what kind of time span are you looking at the whole project?
So for now, we were thinking of doing it as a 2 day event. Okay, we can continue to do it annually, but it depends on the budget that we have. Yeah, but for now, it's the 2 day event. But leading to that 2 day cultural fair, we will start implementing some of this, like haiku and pechakucha, in our own classroom teaching. And they might not be a part of that event, but just the way of how it can, uh, be done as a comprehensive cultural program.
That's really interesting. Is there going to be like a professional training or professional learning experience? Like, so I think my question was like, so they experience origami or they learn how to, I don't know, play the kendama, let's say.
Yeah.
And then from there, I think a lot of the challenges that teachers face is that they have these like interesting like activities that they can do within the classroom. They just don't know how to implement it into a curriculum. And so I think like that's something really like we can show them all of these cool things, which I think is a really great idea. And then from there, I think there needs to be some kind of workshop that helps the teachers really implement what they learned into the classroom. And so I think that might be something to consider if you haven't considered that. But
That's really good. That's really good. That's a cool idea. Thank you so much. Yeah, we can definitely do like a follow up event to that cultural fair, like workshop, which what you mentioned, just to as a way to professionally train teachers so that they can really use this in the classroom.
right.
Yeah,
And
especially
maybe
after.
like just an idea, but like let's say, so if it is like a 2 day span thing, like the first day you can introduce I don't know, let's say like 5 of these activities. And then so the first half would be the participants like playing around with it. And then the second half could be like more of the implementation part of it. And same thing with the second day too. So like the first half they would just experiment with all of these things that are a part of Japanese culture. And then the second part would be like a professional educator coming in and kind of like telling them like this is how you can put this into the classroom and make it interesting for the kids. Because I think a lot of the times when teachers like learn about, let's say, origami, they think it's really cool. They put it into the classroom, but all the kids are doing is like folding origami, which is fine, but like I think there's more you can do with it, you know.
Yeah.
So like giving them some kind of idea of what they can do, I think would be really interesting. And doing it like on the same day, I think would be really helpful. Because if it's like they experience it and then 2 weeks later they're doing professional learning of how to use it, it's kind of like too big of a time gap for them, for the teachers to even be engaged in it anymore. And so if we can like boom, 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 put everything into it in 1 or 2 day setting, I think it would really be helpful.
Yeah, thank you so much, Mary. That's really helpful. I
Good.
just like the idea, yeah, because we were thinking about it too. Our initial idea was to do like a professional workshop,
Mm-hmm.
formal workshop. So we thought that it can be a bit boring, when Japanese culture is something that's fun, something that is obviously we find it exotic. Uh, and then we decided to do cultural fair, where they can just like play all these sort of games, doing all these sort of activities. But with your idea, it's combining the two in a much efficient and effective way. Which is the first half, yeah, it's in the morning. They will be just playing around with it, yeah, having fun with it, and then by afternoon, and in Malaysia by afternoon it tends to be very hot, so they can just sit in a space like a formal training, and I think it fits the teachers very well. Yeah, it would be good for the teachers.
Mm-hmm. And another aspect of Japanese culture I thought that might be interesting was food.
Yes.
And I don't know how if it's possible with the COVID situation, but I think food is such communal experience and
Yeah,
like an experience that like really holds on to people's memories. And so if ingredients are available, if COVID situation allows, I think food would be a really fun cultural experience.
So we're going to get them like to do Japanese food. Is that okay? Yeah. I think we can do that. We did discuss about that. I mean, we are a vocational school, so obviously we have students. We have culinary arts program, so I think it's a good way to make use of that. So what kind of food that you suggest, Mari Sawa? I know that here people love to eat sushi. What do we call it? The sushi, the sushi fast food restaurant. Uh, yeah, other than sushi.
Other than sushi, what would I recommend? Um, I like, oh, that's a good question.
But sushi is fine. We do have Sushi King, which I think it's all over the world, and people love to go there. And Japanese food is very healthy. That's one thing for sure.
Yeah. Sushi is so like normal though. I wish I could give you like a more like cultural food for you.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
Let me think about it. I'll email you if I can think of
That'll be
better.
good. That'll be good. Yeah, the food one. That's a good idea. It's a communal experience. It's not just
Oh,
something that is like.
yeah. And one more thing that I was thinking while you were talking was like using anime and using well, first of all, using anime as a touch point for like media literacy skills.
Yes,
So I
yes,
think, anime is very, very deeply rooted into like, I think it could lead to discussions about the world because
yeah,
it
yeah,
does
yeah.
on very like hard topics, interesting topics that the world is facing. And so I think anime could be used in that kind of way. And also, I think anime can be used as like a cultural experience because, like, let's say the teachers and the students don't really have the chance to come to Japan and see like the landscape and the scenery, which is totally different from, Malaysia and Southeast Asia in
Yes,
general.
yes.
And so I think anime would be a really useful tool to show them like what life looks like in Japan, what scenery looks like in Japan, and that kind of it can be a really good cultural touch point.
Exactly. See, that's really good. Mari Sawa. And I'm glad that you said that because I don't read manga that often. I mean, I do read. I did read Doraemon and
Mhm.
uh, when I was a kid, Doraemon, Sailor Moon, and then there's another one, Dragon Balls. I'm not sure. I think they count as manga, but now there are so many more.
Yes.
But I've been doing some I've been reading some academic articles, and it did say that anime, unlike the Western comics, they tend to be more authentic and they are embedded in the real world, and it discusses global issues that people are experience. So I think it's just like what you say. So yeah, that's very good.
Yeah.
So anime and then the food. Do you we were yesterday when we were discussing, we were like trying to like learn this some of the Japanese phrases and words and writing. Do you think it's a good idea? Because I mean, most Malaysians, even you know, learning English itself it's very difficult for most Malaysians, and and other foreign languages like Mandarin and Arabic languages, which we teach here at vocational in Malaysian schools. But I'm not so sure whether Japanese whether they can handle it. But it doesn't have to be like a formal lesson, just to like learn few phrases. Do you think that would be like a great idea?
I mean, I think it would be fun, especially for those like students that or teachers that are already interested in Japanese language or Japanese culture. I think it would be really fun for them to learn the language. I mean, even if it's just a couple of phrases. But on the other hand, I always think about like, back when I was in school and we had to learn Spanish phrases because it was Spanish week, and you never use it after that. And I thought it was so pointless to learn random words that you never use in real life ever. And partly because I was not interested in learning Spanish, and so I think it would pique the interest of students that are already interested in Japanese culture, and also be like a point of like boredom for some students who are not really interested in it.
Exactly. Yeah, we'll definitely put that into consideration. But like what you say, it might not work that well if they don't find it interesting, or they don't feel like using it. Yeah.
What could be interesting though is to tie it in with Mandarin Chinese, because there are, first of all, there's a ton of words that are very similar in pronunciation. And so if the students already know Mandarin Chinese, I think it would be cool to like connect that together and know that like language, Chinese and Japanese, are so connected and related, and kind of pull history from that. And then
Exactly.
another thing that I was thinking about was like with language, I don't know about other languages, but at least for Japanese words, kanji comes from Chinese, characters, and how like it used to be a pictogram and it morphed into letters. What I found to be very, very interesting when I was younger, like seeing that pictures can become words. And I remember when I was younger, we like created our own kanji by drawing a picture of it and then morphing it into a kanji. And I don't know, just that kind of creativity and artwork might be something interesting and fun.
So one of the activities that we did, that we just started among ourselves, was just to write our names in the Japanese language. And I think one of my colleagues, Alvina, she did that. And it's interesting that you brought that up. That we do we have a lot of Chinese Malaysian students at our school in Malaysia, and we do teach Chinese language at our school. The students, they can either take Chinese language or Arabic language. In fact, one of our colleagues here, Alvina, she speaks Chinese, and yesterday she seemed to be very fluent in Japanese, and she was explaining all these sort of things to us in the similarity between the Chinese language and the Japanese language. So there's definitely a potential for that if we can like really use it in a way that is much more engaging.
Mm-hmm.
And so we don't want to bother you that long, Ms. Mari Sawa. But it has been a very great discussion, and we just want to know if we can if it's possible that the Japanese Foundation allow us to use the grant, allow us to include it in our grant application to get a Japanese scholar or artist to come here. Will you be able to consider that opportunity? I mean, it doesn't have to be during this cultural fair, because it might happen on the day that you're busy, but maybe one day you can just like come quickly and
Yeah, that would be very cool. Thank you. Yeah, I would be interested in that, and I would, I would be happy to continue to consult and kind of talk to you guys about where the project is going, and yeah, that would be fun.
So we'll put you as our consultant, as our main consultant.
Wow. Well, thank you.
Because we need an actual Japanese. Otherwise, if it's just us doing Japanese stuff, it will look like a cultural appropriation.
Right.
Without consulting an actual, Japanese expert, especially a teacher.
Mm-hmm.
So that has been a great discussion. I just want to
Yeah.
ask my Alvina, do you have anything to say? You want to ask anything?
What? はじめまして、マリさん。
まして。
はい。
So maybe you guys could just introduce yourself.
Because I already been in Japan for 6 times, maybe 3 times in Tokyo and two times in Osaka. And then I have went to Osaka for study the education system in Osaka. Yeah.
That's
Because
cool.
I'm learning I'm learning information system for my master studies. So we just learn about the it's kid. I'm not sure. It's about the kids kindergarten,
Mm-hmm.
and then for us it's in secondary school and university. So we
Mm-hmm.
compare for three how they teach the student in different type of situation. So it's like really interesting. Actually, I have watched the Japanese student presenting their project in Kucha Kucha style.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's wow, it's quite good. I mean,
Good.
even though they are not, not really fluent in English, but they can present it. It's really good. I mean, they just in pictures, so they can. Wow, it's really interesting. So I think Kucha Kucha is a quite good presentation system. Used
Mm-hmm.
by Japanese.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then actually I have implemented, if I'm not mistaken, it's Kanken puzzle. It's a Japanese puzzle invent on 2004.
Really
Yeah.
interesting. I'm not familiar with it.
Because I have tried the puzzle myself. It's really interesting. I mean, the student learn how to add but in a Sudoku form.
Oh, cool.
So they have
Yeah.
to complete. Yeah. So it's actually invented by the Japanese teacher
Uh-huh.
in 2004. So I tried to implement it with my student, but just it's a time constraint.
Yeah.
So actually, Japanese culture actually good. Actually, if teacher know how to implement it during lesson, actually it's
Mm-hmm.
very good.
Yeah.
And then
Mm-hmm.
and then one I really salute with Japanese culture is they are so polite, and the student is, I mean, it's organized even in school.
Yes. I agree.
Yes, because I have looked, they cook their meal themselves, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
In secondary school, and then they deliver it for their colleagues in the classroom.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah.
It's like wow, it can be implemented in Malaysia. Well, it's quite good actually.
Mm-hmm.
It just
Exactly.
it takes time if you want to implement that type of strategies in the school.
Right. And there's cultural differences too, right? I think there's
Yeah,
really good academic or like lifestyles that we want to implement, but sometimes it's just not feasible to implement things because it's not culturally appropriate. So like
yeah,
Japanese people really like the Scandinavian lifestyle of like Finland and Norway and everything. And like that's like a big thing in Japan. But when you think about it, like their culture, their background and history and weather is completely different from what we experience. And so of course we can't implement everything that they do.
yeah.
And I think that's the same for any sort of culture. And so whatever we can implement, I think that would be very fun.
Yeah. And what I like is the student plant their, I mean, the vegetable themselves.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, like Japanese schools have their own vegetable garden and they make their own vegetables. Yeah.
So it's quite wow, interesting.
Yeah, it's different, isn't it? Yeah,
Yeah,
I agree.
it's great.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
So yeah, Mari Sawa, Alvina, she's a math teacher. And so she has been using the Can puzzle and also the Sudoku in class. And I forgot to mention it before that Malaysia, we do, in the 80s, I think up until now, we do have this policy. It's called Look East policy. And it's actually inspired by Japan itself, because Japan is the country that is so developed that it was able to develop itself very quickly. So the then our minister introduced the policy in the 80s. Look East, the East refer to East Asia, specifically Japan. That's how fascinated we are by the Japanese. Definitely, people always talk about Japanese, yeah, how disciplined they are, how clean they are, how
Right.
smart they are.
Well, I hope that one day this grant will enable me to go see you, but also for your students and your teachers to one day come visit us. We would be more than happy to house and treat you guys as guests. I think that'd be really fun.
Yeah, like a field thing.
Yeah.
I mean, we can, Malaysia just opened its border. And
Yes.
so we are allowed to travel now, but usually for schools, because we are very like a bureaucratic, centralized country. So I'm not so sure. For us teachers, we do need the government permission before we can start. Yeah, one day we can make that happen. Definitely. Yeah, thank you so much, myself.
Yeah, thank you. And next time, if we ever, talk through Google Meets or whatever next time, I do want to introduce you to my colleague who is Indonesian that I just told you about. Her name is Natasha. And I think she can also bring a little bit of insight because as a Japanese person living in Japan, there are some things that are totally normal to me that I don't even think to be unique enough to share with people. But Natasha has lived in Japan for about 3 years now. And I think she can also give insight as a foreigner of what it feels like to live in Japan and be in the Japanese culture. And so, yeah, I will be more than happy to connect you guys as well. And we can all talk together. So
in our next minute. So just before we end our meeting, I would like my colleague to introduce themselves at least. Mr. Larry James, can you introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure.
Introduce yourself.
Oh,
Your
yeah.
name.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Hello. Yeah, Mari Sawa. My name is Larry James. I'm a maths teacher, and I'm from Papar, Sabah. Yeah, in Sabah, in one of the district in Malaysia. Yeah, yeah. I think. Thank you for your sharing. I enjoy to listen it, and it's a very great sharing. I hope we can see you here. Yeah. Okay, that's all from me. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. And then Mr. Ahmad, is he available? He just came in. Ahmad? I think he's not available. But yeah, thank you so much for agreeing to meet us on Google Meet, Miss Marisawa. So you definitely have been very helpful. The idea that you gave us of combining the two, that's very cool. And then we love the idea, the anime, the food, that it gives communal experience. And don't forget to let us know what kind of, because we always think about sushi, but in Malaysia, we even have sushi king, and people are so used to sushi.
right.
And for us, it's exotic, but for you, it's a common thing already. So it will be very interesting to bring in something new, something that people like, oh, surprise, because because it's something that they might have not tasted often.
Right.
And yeah, it would be very good if you can come here one day, come to Sabah particularly one day. It would be so cool, for, just for like a professional development workshop, right?
Yeah, that'd be so much fun.
For and then we'll take you around Sabah. It's a nice state in Borneo.
Sounds great.
And we have one of the highest mountain here, Mount Kinabalu. Actually, Sabah, we receive a lot of Japanese tourists
Yeah.
every year. It's one of the most popular tourism spot in Malaysia for the Japanese.
Wow, I'm excited.
Yeah, it would be so cool to have you here. And yeah, maybe one day we can go to Japan and for a field trip, and then we'll be able to meet you in person there.
Yes. Yes.
Lifestyle.
Well, let me know if there's anything else I can do. And you know my email, so just email me anytime and we can connect again through Google Meets. So yeah.
Yeah.
All
so
right.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. It was fun.
You are very busy, so thank you so much. See you virtually at least.
All right. I'll see ya.
Bye.